Whether art becomes your career or remains a hobby, it's important to keep enjoying the process of creating. Since it's been a while since I was in college, I did wonder if I could still capture the vibe of being a student effectively. The brief mentioned wanting to combine the theme of challenging oneself with a sense of youthful energy, so I thought carefully about how to incorporate those elements. With how skilled students are these days, I've been feeling pretty excited about seeing what they'll create for this contest. Since the contest is aimed at Korean students, I wanted to include some subtle Korean elements in the background, even though I didn't go for a completely traditional setting. When planning the background, I thought about the trendy hanok cafes that have popped up in the city and wanted to capture a bit of that vibe. I've also noticed many people working on iPads in cafes, so I figured there'd be a lot of students like that too and added one into the artwork. In the past, I preferred clean lines, but lately I've been drawn to more textured lines, so I use a pencil brush for the line art. My sketches can be a bit rough, so when I move to the line art, I often refine and redraw elements, which can significantly change the vibe of the characters. So I take care to keep the lines clean and organized during this stage. Next, I moved on to the base colors, which I consider the masking phase. I use a lot of layers when painting because I tend to make adjustments throughout the process, and having separate layers makes it easier. I separated the base colors by areas and objects, each on its own layer. Then I gradually built up the shading on the characters. In this piece, the composition has two characters in the foreground with a cat on the table, and since this is meant to be the focal point, I got this part about 80% done before moving on to the background. When working on the background, I was careful not to make it as detailed or intense as the characters, as this could make the overall image feel too busy. Instead, I adjusted the level of the detail based on the distance. Once the background was done, I went back to the characters to check for any awkward areas or details that might need tweaking. I often go through similar checks during the process as well. Finally, I zoomed in to correct any stray lines, added the last details, and then gave the piece a final look. I finished by adding some blur and effects to tie everything together. The canvas proportions were a big factor in determining the composition this time. The brief mentioned that the final image would be cropped with a shorter vertical and longer horizontal aspect for promotional use, so they requested a horizontal layout to keep the main elements clearly visible. I considered different compositions, like focusing on the characters' faces and upper bodies, or positioning them sideways, before landing on the final layout. I also anticipated that the illustration might be used in banners or other promotional materials where text would be added, so I made sure to leave some empty space for that. I finalized the composition with this in mind. Since the characters are indoors, I wanted to capture the indoor setting while also incorporating the season in which the artwork would be posted. I expressed the seasonal feeling through the characters' outfits and tried to keep the indoor atmosphere from being too dark. I chose warm tones for the interior, but also wanted to convey a sense of freshness by showing a bit of the outside world through the windows. I started with a beige tone as the base, transitioning to green, and then to a cool blue sky where the image connects to the outside. I wanted to keep the overall color scheme within these three tones, beige, green, and sky blue, to create a cohesive and pleasant atmosphere. The initial sketch phase is what takes the most time because I put a lot of thought into the overall color scheme and layout from the beginning. This helps me make sure that there's minimal difference between the sketch and the final piece. I don't necessarily try to predict the exact level of completion during the sketch stage, but I do set a clear standard for the final outcome and work hard to meet it. I feel that students are now creating art in a much more competitive and complex environment than in the past. There's so much more to see now, and there are so many more talented artists than when I was a student, which probably increases the sense of competition. Plus, now there's AI too. Despite all that, I hope students can continue to enjoy drawing and keep at it. It's okay if drawing becomes more of a hobby than a job. In this piece, I wanted to convey the message, no matter where you are or what your circumstances, I hope that you can find joy in creating art. It's a bit embarrassing to admit, but that's the sentiment I had while working on this illustration. When I first started, I was influenced by the friends around me who were also drawing, but everyone progressed at their own pace. Some friends improved quickly because they drew a lot, while others took a slower, more steady approach and gradually got better over time. Everyone has their own timeline for developing their skills and getting noticed. Seeing these differences up close can be really valuable. It's great to have a group of peers who all draw together, and if you're in the same major, you probably have a lot of friends like that. Sometimes people come to me with concerns like, I'm struggling with my art, or I'm in a slump, or even, how can I draw faster? In those moments, I always encourage them to take a long-term view of their journey. Even if things are tough now, it won't last forever. Just keep going at your own pace and don't give up. Recently, I've been thinking about adopting a lighter, more relaxed style in my work. I feel like this could open up more opportunities to explore different types of projects. I'd also like to see my art used more commercially, so I expect my style to continue to evolve as I explore these new directions. I tend to have a lot of ideas in my daily life, which means my mood and motivation can fluctuate quite a bit. Because of that, I always do my best to maintain balance in my life and keep a steady mindset. There are times when I lose motivation for everything, but I'm lucky enough to have close family and friends who are driven and persistent in their own work. Seeing them push forward gives me the energy to keep going. I think it's mostly a matter of personal preference. For me, a good piece of art is one that feels complete and intentional. I love works where you can immediately sense the atmosphere or story behind it. They don't have to be highly detailed. Even something only partially fleshed out or drawn with simple lines can convey a strong emotion or narrative right away. When a piece comes out the way I intended, it gives me a sense of satisfaction, like, okay, this is done. I'm not a fan of rushing to meet deadlines or drawing just to fill a page count. I also feel satisfied when I finally finish a piece that I'd had in mind for a while. My advice would be similar to my message to the students participating in the Pixiv Korean Student Illustration Contest 2024. Even if progress is slow, don't give up on what you want to achieve. Whether art becomes your career or remains a hobby, it's important to keep enjoying the process of creating. That's something I believe in myself. Take care of your health, and I hope you reach your goals. Keep at it. You've got this.